Jake, I don't know how you do it. Standing in front of a crowd, speaking like it's no big deal. I freeze up just thinking about it.
Hey, I get it. Public speaking can feel like climbing Mount Everest, especially if you're an introvert. But trust me, it's not about being the loudest or most outgoing person in the room. It's about connecting with your audience in your own way.
Connecting? How? I feel like I'm invisible when I'm up there, or worse, like everyone's judging me.
First, let's reframe that. People aren't there to judge you, they're there to hear what you have to say. And as an introvert, you've got a superpower, you're a great listener and observer. Use that to your advantage. Think of your speech as a conversation, not a performance.
A conversation? But I'm the only one talking.
Exactly. But you're talking to them, not at them. Imagine you're sharing something important with a friend. That shift in mindset can make a huge difference. And here's a pro tip: focus on one or two friendly faces in the audience. It'll make the room feel smaller and less intimidating.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the nerves? My hands shake, my voice quivers. It's a disaster.
Nerves are normal, even for seasoned speakers. The trick is to channel that energy into enthusiasm. Take deep breaths before you start. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4. It's like hitting a reset button for your brain. And practice, practice, practice. The more familiar you are with your material, the more confident you'll feel.
Practice, huh? I guess I can't avoid that part. But what if I mess up?
You will. And that's okay. Everyone does. The key is to keep going. Most people won't even notice unless you draw attention to it. And if you do stumble, own it. A little humor or honesty can actually make you more relatable.
I never thought of it that way. Maybe it's not as scary as I'm making it out to be.
Exactly. Public speaking isn't about being perfect, it's about being authentic. And as an introvert, you've got a unique perspective to share. Embrace it. You've got this, Emma.
Thanks, Jake. You know, I've always admired how you use gestures when you speak. It seems so natural. I feel like a robot up there.
Body language is crucial, but it doesn't have to be dramatic. Start small, use your hands to emphasize key points. It'll help you feel more natural and keep your audience engaged. And remember, good posture can boost your confidence too.
What about eye contact? I find it so intimidating.
It's a game changer. Try the triangle technique. Look at one person's eyes for a few seconds, then move to another's, forming a triangle pattern across the room. It gives the illusion of connecting with everyone.
That's clever. But what if my mind goes blank mid-speech?
Ah, the dreaded blank mind. Here's a trick: prepare mental checkpoints throughout your speech. These are key ideas you can easily recall. If you lose your place, pause, take a breath, and jump to the next checkpoint. It's like having a mental safety net.
That's reassuring. Any tips for dealing with tough questions?
Great question. First, always repeat the question to ensure you understood it correctly. It also gives you a moment to think. If you don't know the answer, it's okay to say so. You can offer to follow up later or ask if anyone in the audience has insights to share.
This is all really helpful, Jake. I feel like I have a toolkit now.
Glad to help. Remember, public speaking is a skill, it gets better with practice. Why not join a local Toastmasters club? It's a supportive environment to hone your skills.
You know what? I think I will. But what if I'm not passionate about the topic I'm speaking on? Does that make a difference?
Absolutely. Passion is contagious. If you're not excited about your topic, your audience won't be either. The key is to find an angle that genuinely interests you. Even if the subject seems dry, there's always a way to connect it to something you care about. For example, if you're talking about data analysis, focus on how it can solve real-world problems or tell compelling stories.
That makes sense. But what if I'm not the expert on the topic? I feel like I need to know everything before I can speak about it.
You don't have to be the ultimate expert. You just need to know more than your audience does. And honestly, people appreciate honesty. If you don't know something, it's okay to admit it. It makes you more relatable. Plus, it's a great opportunity to invite discussion and learn from others.
That's a relief. I always thought I had to have all the answers. What about the structure of the speech? I tend to ramble when I'm nervous.
Structure is your best friend. Start with a clear introduction, tell them what you're going to tell them. Then, break your main points into 3 or 4 key sections. Finally, wrap it up with a strong conclusion that ties everything together. And here's a pro tip: use transitions between points to keep the flow smooth. Phrases like "now let's move on to," or "this brings me to my next point," work wonders.
I'll have to practice that. What about visuals? Do I need slides or props?
Visuals can be powerful, but they're not always necessary. If you do use them, keep them simple and relevant. A cluttered slide can distract more than it helps. And remember, you're the star of the show, not your slides. Use them to enhance your message, not replace it.
Got it. Less is more. What about the length of the speech? I always worry I'll either finish too early or go over time.
Timing is important, but it's not the end of the world if you're a little off. Practice with a timer to get a feel for your pace. And always have a few extra points or stories you can add if you're running short. If you're running long, prioritize your key messages and skip the less important details.
This is all so helpful, Jake. I feel like I'm actually starting to look forward to this. But what about the audience's energy? Sometimes I feel like I'm losing them, especially if they seem bored or distracted. How do I keep them engaged?
That's a great point. Audience engagement is key. One way to keep them hooked is to ask rhetorical questions or even direct ones if the setting allows. It makes them feel involved. You can also use storytelling. People love a good story. It's relatable and keeps their attention. And don't underestimate the power of pauses. A well-timed pause can emphasize a point and give the audience a moment to absorb what you've said.
Pauses? Won't that make me seem unsure?
Not at all. Pauses are a sign of confidence. They show you're in control and give your words weight. Think of them as punctuation in your speech. And if you notice the audience drifting, try changing your tone or volume. A sudden shift can snap them back to attention.
I never thought of that. What about humor? I'm not exactly a stand-up comedian.
You don't have to be. Humor can be as simple as a light-hearted comment or a relatable anecdote. It's about breaking the ice and making the audience feel comfortable. Just keep it natural. Forced humor can fall flat. And remember, it's okay if not every joke lands. The goal is to create a connection, not to get a standing ovation.
Good to know. I think I'm starting to see public speaking as less of a performance and more of a conversation, like you said earlier.
Exactly. It's all about connection. And don't forget, every audience is different. What works for one group might not work for another. The more you speak, the better you'll get at reading the room and adapting your style.
That's reassuring. I guess it's like any other skill, it takes time and practice. But Jake, I've been wondering, what if I'm speaking to a really diverse audience? How do I make sure my message resonates with everyone?
That's a great question, Emma. The key is to find common ground. Focus on universal themes or experiences that most people can relate to, regardless of their background. For example, everyone understands the feeling of overcoming a challenge or the joy of achieving a goal. Also, be mindful of your language, avoid jargon or cultural references that might not be widely understood. And if you're unsure, it's okay to ask your audience questions or invite their perspectives. It shows you value their input and helps you tailor your message on the spot.
That's smart. But what if someone disagrees with me? I'm not great at handling conflict.
Disagreements can actually be a good thing, they show your audience is engaged. The trick is to stay calm and respectful. Acknowledge their point of view, even if you don't agree. You can say something like, "That's an interesting perspective. Here's how I see it." It keeps the conversation constructive. And if things get heated, redirect the focus back to your main message. You're in control of the discussion.
That's helpful. What about nerves right before I go on stage? I feel like I might forget everything.
Pre-stage jitters are totally normal. Here's a trick: do a quick power pose in private. Stand tall, hands on your hips, and take a few deep breaths. It can actually boost your confidence. And right before you start, remind yourself why you're speaking. Focus on the value you're bringing to your audience, not on your fear. Oh, and keep a small note card with your key points as a backup, just in case.
I'll try that. What about the first sentence? I always freeze up trying to figure out how to start.
The opening is crucial, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Start with something simple and engaging, a surprising fact, a short story, or even a question. For example, have you ever wondered why? Or, let me tell you about a time when. It grabs attention and sets the tone for the rest of your speech. And once you've started, the rest will flow more naturally.
That's a relief. I think I'm starting to feel more prepared. But what if I get feedback afterward? I'm not sure how to handle criticism.
Feedback is a gift, even if it's not always easy to hear. The key is to separate constructive criticism from personal opinions. Focus on the comments that can help you improve, and don't take the rest to heart. And remember, even the best speakers get feedback, it's how they keep growing. After your speech, take a moment to reflect on what went well and what you can work on. It's all part of the journey.
Thanks, Jake. You've given me so much to think about. Okay. What if I'm speaking to a virtual audience? It feels so different from being in person. How do I keep them engaged when I can't see their reactions?
Virtual speaking is a whole new ballgame, but it's not as daunting as it seems. First, treat it like an in-person event, dress professionally, set up a clean background, and make sure your lighting is good. Eye contact is still important, so look directly into the camera, not at the screen. It'll feel more personal to your audience. And don't forget to smile, it's contagious, even through a screen.
That's helpful. But what if my internet connection fails or my tech glitches?
Tech issues happen to everyone. The key is to stay calm and have a backup plan. Test your equipment beforehand, and keep a phone or tablet nearby as a backup. If something goes wrong, apologize briefly, fix it, and move on. Most people are understanding, they've probably been there themselves. And if all else fails, have a recording of your presentation ready to share as a last resort.
Good point. What about engagement? It's harder to read the room when you're online.
True, but there are ways to keep your audience involved. Use polls, chat features, or Q&A sessions to interact with them. You can also ask them to share their thoughts in the chat or use emojis to react. It's a great way to gauge their interest and keep them engaged. And don't forget to pause occasionally to check for questions or comments, it makes the experience more interactive.
I like that. But what if I'm speaking to a hybrid audience, some in person, some online? How do I balance both?
Hybrid events can be tricky, but they're manageable. Start by acknowledging both groups, say hello to the in-person audience and the virtual one. Use a mix of techniques, make eye contact with the live audience while also addressing the camera for the online viewers. If you're using slides, make sure they're visible on both platforms. And consider having a moderator to help manage questions from both groups. It's all about making everyone feel included.
That's a lot to think about, but it's good to know there are strategies for every situation. What about the length of a virtual speech? Should it be shorter than an in-person one?
Great question. Virtual audiences tend to have shorter attention spans, so aim for a concise presentation. 20 to 30 minutes is usually ideal. If you need to go longer, break it up with interactive elements or short breaks. And remember, it's better to leave them wanting more than to overstay your welcome.
Got it. I think I'm starting to feel more confident about virtual speaking. It's just another skill to learn, right?
Exactly. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll become. Virtual speaking opens up so many opportunities. You can reach people all over the world without leaving your home. It's a powerful tool, and you're going to rock it.
Jake, you're being a great help. I'll make sure to apply all you've taught me. Okay, another question. What if I'm speaking to a really large audience? Like, hundreds or even thousands of people. How do I make sure my message still feels personal and impactful?
Great question, Emma. Speaking to a large audience can be intimidating, but it's also an incredible opportunity. Here are some key tips. Make your message universal. Use stories and examples that resonate with a wide range of people. Create a personal connection. Even in a big crowd, everyone wants to feel like you're speaking directly to them. Use humor and emotion. It's a powerful way to connect on a human level, no matter the size of the audience. Practice active engagement. Ask rhetorical questions or invite the audience to briefly participate to keep them invested. Utilize visual aids. Large screens or props can help reinforce your message and keep the audience focused.
That makes sense. But how do I manage my nerves with so many people watching? It's one thing to speak to a small group, but a huge crowd feels overwhelming.
Nerves are natural, but here's how you can manage them. Channel energy into delivery. Think of it as excitement rather than fear, or focus on small sections. Pick a few friendly faces in different areas and rotate your attention between them. Practice deep breathing. Take slow, deep breaths before and during your speech to stay calm. Visualize success. Imagine yourself delivering the speech confidently and successfully. Arrive early. Familiarize yourself with the venue and test any equipment to feel more at ease.
What about my voice? I'm worried I won't project enough or that I'll sound monotone.
Voice control is crucial for large audiences. Here are some techniques. Project without shouting. Imagine speaking to the person at the very back of the room. Vary tone and pace. Keep things dynamic to maintain interest. Use strategic pauses. They give your words time to sink in and create emphasis. Practice vocal exercises. Warm up your voice before speaking to improve clarity and projection. Stay hydrated. Keep water nearby to prevent your voice from getting dry or strained.
Got it. What about body language? I feel like it's harder to be expressive when you're on a big stage.
Actually, a big stage gives you more room to express yourself. Use the space, walk around and gesture to engage different parts of the audience. Match movements to message. Let your body language reflect the content of your speech. Make eye contact. Look at different sections of the audience to create connection. Use purposeful gestures. Large, deliberate movements can emphasize key points. Mind your posture. Stand tall and open to project confidence and approachability.
This is all really helpful. But what if I make a mistake in front of so many people? It feels like there's no room for error.
Mistakes happen, even to the best speakers. Here's how to handle them. Stay calm, pause, take a breath, and keep going. Own it with grace. A little humor or honesty can make you more relatable. Don't draw attention. Most people won't notice unless you make it obvious. Have a recovery plan. Prepare some phrases to help you smoothly move past stumbles. Remember, the audience is on your side. They want you to succeed.
That's reassuring. I guess it's all about perspective. What about the Q&A session? I'm worried about getting tough questions from such a large group.
Q&A with a big audience can be tricky, but here's how to handle it. Repeat questions. Ensure everyone hears and it gives you time to think. Be honest if you don't know. Offer to follow up later or ask the audience for insights. Stay calm and respectful. Acknowledge perspectives and redirect to your main message. Prepare for likely questions. Anticipate what might be asked and have answers ready. Use the moderator. If there's one, they can help manage difficult questioners or topics.
This is all so helpful, Jake. I feel like I'm actually starting to look forward to speaking to a big audience. It's a chance to make a real impact.
That's the spirit, Emma. Remember, every great speaker started somewhere. You've got the tools, the mindset, and the support. Now it's just about taking that first step and embracing the opportunity to share your message with a wider audience.
Thanks for believing in me, Jake. I'm ready to take the leap, even if it's onto a big stage.
That's what I like to hear. And remember, I'll be in the front row, cheering you on every step of the way. You've got this, Emma.
Cheers to that, and to stepping into the spotlight, no matter how big it is.
Here's to your next big adventure. Let's make it unforgettable.